Welcome to the Stoned Heen View, a podcast series which interviews a range of sport club representatives and leading professional sport club personnel during the COVID-19 shutdown. We find out what these people are doing during the current health crisis with some of our most popular sports seasons postponed. I'm Mark Heenan, and today I'm joined by a special summer series co-host. He's actually the Anglesea Cricket Club president, and he's also a gun cricketer. And he's also told me he's been a bit Sir Don off the field and on the field with his batting average. It's a great delight to bring to the program Brett Venables of the Anglesea Cricket Club. Welcome, Brett.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, it is good to be here. And we're going to talk to one of your players today a little bit about what they've been doing during COVID. And we're going to talk about the impressive deck that's been built down at the club. And it's going to be a great delight to talk to you a little bit about how the club's going in the face of COVID. Obviously, you've been successful off the field and on the field for a few years as well. But do you want to introduce our guest, because he's a star of your club and he's someone that has been a dominant player for probably the last decade in the BPCA.
Yeah, mate. It's good to have Dale Kerr with us today. So, three-time Ray Menzies medalist. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Mark.
No worries, Dale. It's great to have you on the program, and I'll let Brett fire away with his first question. You can let him know that if his journalism skills are up to speed, and whether he's a good master of ceremonies as well.
Yeah. Been quite a successful cricketer, Dale. This year, no different. We seem to be travelling quite well as a club, not only personally, but as a club in not only the A grade, but the B grade on top as well.
Been a really successful season so far this year, obviously with the troubles of having COVID and whatnot early on in the season, whether we'd even get a season to go ahead, been really positive. I guess as an association, BPCA, and also as a club, we've been really strong on and off the field this year, done some really good things around the club, and then we've worked really hard off the field as well in our training and whatnot for our B grade and A grade to be on top of the ladder, and our C grade, I think it's sitting sixth, and I don't think can make finals, but still looking positive towards the end of the year.
Dale, I want to go back to last season, because what this podcast is essentially about is what sport clubs are doing during COVID. Now, if we look at what happened with the Bellarine Peninsula Cricket Association, we had a situation where you guys finished on top of the ladder. You actually progressed, I believe you progressed through to the grand final. Now, you didn't end up playing the grand final because of COVID. And I saw things like, a grand final team photo where you were socially distant. You've won grand finals where you've defeated the opposition on the day of the grand final before. You went through a situation where you had that. What was the feeling like having a team be declared champions, but not playing in a grand final to win that, even though you finished on top of the ladder?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, I guess. We sort of weren't the only ones in that boat. I guess all around Victoria and whatnot, we're all in that same boat, and it definitely was weird. Like, obviously, I've won a few now where we've actually played the game, but yeah, I guess, I don't know, there's not really too much you can say about it, I guess. It would have been really, really good to see how we went against Jan Juck. Obviously, they're a really good outfit. I guess maybe that's just the positive of finishing on top, is if it is sort of rained out or whatnot, that you do get to go through as a winner or whatnot. But yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, I guess, not to play the game, but obviously it's also positive that we did get the win. It's probably not the way we really wanted it to happen. I guess it's just the circumstances that come. Couldn't really do too much about it.
On the COVID scenario, obviously we were able to probably fast track the deck project. You were obviously quite a big part of building this deck with a lot of work gone into it. So maybe just explain to the guys just how that sort of process came about and the hard work from a lot of people that went into it.
Yeah, well, I guess obviously with COVID and whatnot, even this year, I guess the year started off was pretty shaky, I guess, with all the restrictions and rules and all that sort of things that were in place. As a club off the field, we were able to start the new deck, which we'd sort of been planning on for a year or so now, and then just getting some funding for that, all that sort of stuff to get it underway. And in the off-season, we sort of pulled the pin and got it started, and then once we started, we just sort of kept going, and every weekend for probably 6 to 8 weeks, we were up here starting the deck. Obviously, we did all of it ourselves, getting funding from a lot of people from around town and some businesses that really helped us out throughout the whole thing. So we couldn't have done it without them, but a lot of work from a lot of blokes at the club, put in a lot of hard time, all just for the love of the club. And yeah, it's turned out to be magnificent. And we've done the inside of the rooms as well to be brick now. It's all plastered and painted, and it was all done from blokes around the club putting back. So it was really, really good to see them. We've sort of only just finished it the last couple of weeks, I guess, just putting up signs and everything like that. It's dragged on for a long time, but it's great to see the reward we get for all the effort we've put in with the great facilities we've got now.
Dale, obviously, when we started doing this series, it was in and around late April. There was no football season, and in a lot of ways, people were forced to do completely different things. I know that you're a keen footballer and you've done pretty well in the footy field at Anglesea as well. And I suppose we should mention here is, as part of building that deck, that you're an electrician by trade. What were you sort of faced with on, say, Saturday afternoons during the winter season last year, when the football was on, as in, well, there was no local football, there was AFL on, post-May? What were you sort of doing? Like, we had scenarios where someone would say, if we have half a season, is it worth a tradesperson giving up their Saturday morning to go and play football and then get injured? Or could they, earn, I suppose, a little bit more money working during the day or whatever? Were you working, doing your electrician work on a Saturday? And what was your involvement with the Anglesea Cricket Club, say, on Saturdays during the winter season?
Yeah, with no footy, it was a little bit obviously disappointing as well. I'm into my footy as well. But instead, yeah, I literally was just working a lot between doing my own stuff on the side and then also helping out with the cricket club with the deck. There was obviously a lot of organising going into that. So it wasn't just like a little meeting or whatever. There was a lot of meetings over weekends and whatnot, and a lot of blokes getting together to talk about and go through it. So really, I just did a lot of work for myself and then just with the cricket club with the deck. So just to try and keep that ticking over. So then obviously it was done mid-season.
Sort of going on from the deck, sort of moving more to your own personal accolades and how you're travelling as a cricketer. Obviously, you've done quite a lot in the last sort of probably 7 or 8 years in the Ballaring. What do you sort of put your success down to? Is it the hard work, naturally talented? How do you go about doing that?
I guess it's a little bit of both, I guess. Sometimes, I guess, as a junior, I'm not a bad cricketer. And then seeing that, I've sort of thought that if I work hard at my game and listen to some more experienced blokes and blokes that have been at a lot higher level than what I have and just get some tips off them, that hopefully I can maybe be as good as them one day, sort of thing. And I guess just a lot of hard work, I reckon, too, on and off the field, I guess. Behind the scenes things as well, going to physios and recovery and all that sort of thing. Especially when I hurt my back a couple of years ago, it was sort of a big thing back then to all my rehab to get everything back up to scratch, sort of thing. So I think it's probably a lot of hard work, I guess, sort of to where I am today.
Yeah, Dale, let's obviously just reminisce a little bit about that, because at the time you were appointed as a young coach of the club, and you had probably offers to go into Geelong and take your cricket career in a different direction, whether that was playing more on turf or and that sort of thing. So I don't necessarily want to ask you why you stayed at Anglesea, but coming back into your career, when you sort of, I know that you're a leader of the club, I get all of that, but when you sort of stepped away from the coaching duties of the club, and obviously I believe you got Brian Thomas in that role, in an off-field role, how much did that relieve you? Because in a lot of ways, you were dealing with your, I think you had a bulging disc. I mean, you spoke to me about it when I had the media role with the BPCA a few years ago, but you had that issue back then. What's it like sort of having that as coaching duties removed, where you could just sort of mainly focus on your cricket?
I guess because I was sort of fairly into my sport, I guess, playing cricket and footy all the time, it was a bit of a shock to have a bit of that much time off. Really, I had, I think, 4.5 months off work. So it was a long time of not being able to do things, especially someone who's pretty active all the time. Not being able to get out and do things that I enjoy doing as well was a little bit annoying. It was good sort of to get back up to the club, I guess, and then just help out in any way I could, whether it was just standing out there hitting catches or just giving some advice to some of the younger kids just at the top of their market training, just little things like that to slowly get back into it was probably the biggest sort of relief for me, because I did struggle after that sort of thing with not doing any sport and not getting out and being active, something I really enjoy. Yeah, it was a bit tough, but yeah, once all the recovery and that was over, it was great to get back into it.
Well, just a quick one before Brett asks his next question. You had a stage there where it went back probably 4 or 5 years ago where you couldn't get out of bed. I mean, can you describe the pain threshold and how much it restricted your independence and not being able to work for such long chunks of time? I mean, like, where was it at its worst?
Yeah, I remember I was working down a lawn at the time as an apprentice and was going to get in my car, and it was, bulging disc in my back, and I had sciatic nerve pain, which goes down your legs and whatnot, and I was sort of struggling to walk, even getting to the car and that, and I ended up getting home, ended up getting an ambulance back into hospital in Geelong, and then from then sort of thing, I had some injections in my back to slow the pain down and whatnot. Was back home, and then I think within 2 or 3 weeks I ended up having surgery on my back, and then I was bed bound for 3 or 4 weeks, not allowed to move more than 200 meters a day. So it was really just going to the toilet and going up to the fridge to get something to eat. So I was living at home at the stage, so it was good. I had mum and dad there sort of to help me out a fair bit early on when I couldn't really do too much. But then obviously once I could start doing recovery and whatnot, it wasn't too bad. I was able to get in, do some walking and do lots of recovery and Pilates and stuff like that. So
going back a little bit, Mark mentioned that we got Brian in to help with the coaching. Obviously, he's been a massive asset to the club going forward. Obviously, the club announced that yourself and Brian will be co-coaches for next year. It's obviously very exciting that we've been able to maintain and retain 2 assets to the club like you guys are. Just about sort of the influence that Brian's brought to not only himself but probably the group.
Definitely, Brian's been a massive help for the club. I sort of met Brian a few years ago in some of the pathway stuff and got along with him really, really well, and knew that he'd been a really good coach. Done things at Victoria and juniors things and Joey's and Grovedale and stuff like that. And then I heard he was didn't have a job at Grovedale, and so I approached him and to see whether he would coach down Anglesea. And he actually was sort of a bit of a different challenge for him, something he probably never really done before, sort of coming down to something like hard wicket, probably really only coached at the real sort of higher level. His experience and everything he's brought to the club, just knowledge from even just us running things off the field, just different ideas he's brought. He's on our committee as well this year, which is great. And just the experience he brings and the culture he brings out of everyone. And he doesn't just help the first 11, it's the A grade. He helps all the way down to our C grade, and is really striving to have 4 sides next year and even trying to get women's sides. So it's really good that you've got someone like Brian who's coming down and making a massive influence on the club.
Dale, just having a look at your statistics this year, or this season, have been absolutely phenomenal. And I know it's not always about the single person in the game, but, to have an average of 6.17, your strike rates are incredible. Every, 15.93. So almost less than every 16 balls, you're taking a wicket. Just talk about the this year, you're playing 1-day games only. You're not playing 2-day games. I mean, as a bowler, and I know you've done really well in your batting as well, but as a bowler, have you looked at it and thought, hey, I can be more attacking now because I've got 1-day games. I can only bowl 8 overs. Is that compared to the 2-day games? You obviously enjoyed the 1-day format?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've had to sort of alter a little bit, obviously being all 1-days this year. So, yeah, I guess being a bit more attacking you can, especially early on. If you get a few wickets and you're bowling in some good areas, and you're able to set some attacking fields, and with your bowler at the other end, if he's bowling well as well, then it makes it really easy for someone like myself to then also, set an attacking field to then hopefully get some early scalps and stuff like that. But I do prefer probably the 2-day cricket, to be quite honest. You just obviously, sometimes you can get a bit of a rhythm in 2-day cricket and bowl a bit more than 8 overs sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's something I've had to adapt to, and even just things like change of pace and bounces and stuff like that are probably a little bit more frequent than what they normally are.
He's got a pretty handy opening bowler at the other end, Mark, who helps him out.
I was going to say, you've got Dylan Taylor back too. And what I find interesting too is, and I don't know, this could be a question for Brett, is that you have had a lot of players that have grown up in Anglesea, and whether it's family, I think from memory, I think Brett and Ty Norman, who's helped me get up this podcast with you too, Dale, or had chats with him about that, is that whilst some of the players have moved away from Anglesea, they've grown up in Anglesea, but they've moved away, but they've come back. They've always come back to represent Anglesea. So it's got that special connection. And I suppose Brett could answer that question as well as Dale.
I've had this question a couple of times this year, and it's a hard one to pinpoint exactly what it is that makes it so special that you want to come back, and it is your home and you don't want to leave. You look through the premiership sides we've had, and 9 of the 11, out of probably 3 of the 5 flags that we've played in, 9 of the 11 are local juniors that started out the club. And I guess it just comes back from, a lot of the of guys' dads played here, so you come up from a very young age and you watch them play, and you just you hear at the club, and it just kind of gets you stuck with what it is here. And there are guys that have left for maybe 1 or 2 years, but then they which is fine. We encourage people to go away from the club if that's the GCA or Geelong or wherever they might want to go, but they know that they're always welcome to come back. And I guess it's just the mateship that we have. It's not an A grade team or a B grade team or a C grade team. It's A to C. It's a one club mentality, and it even stems into the juniors. I mean, I know you probably can't see behind us, but we've got the under 13s are training with us tonight. Just little initiatives like that really involve the young guys coming through, that make them feel a part of the club. So when they do grow up, that they probably want to hang around and play here because they know how special it is.
Dale, obviously your performances have been strong off the field, and you're doing some good work on the field, I should say, but you're doing some great work off the field, obviously with the club deck. But, some of those awards, particularly, the 3-time Ray Menzies medalist, and you were part of that. You were named in that team of the year with the Victorian Country Cricket League. And then also this season, you might want to delve into this, how you got to play at the Junction Oval just recently as well. Representing the western state versus the eastern state. I mean, outside of the Anglesea Cricket Club, just in more recent times, not just with the Geelong Cricket Club, what do you feel have been your most proudest achievements in the game of cricket?
Yeah, well, with the western and eastern zone, we just had a game up at Junction Oval. I guess they can't play a carnival this year, so it was more of just get together representative game, choosing a bit of a side from the east and west of the state, and just have a bit of a grudge match, considering we can't travel interstate with COVID this year. So it was good to try it out for it last year. I was unable to make it, but it was good to see them same guys again. I guess it's a bit of a good connection you get. You don't really see them too often, but when you do, it's good to see them and catch up with them. And I guess that's the good thing about sport, is you do meet a lot of new people, make some really good friendships. And there's a couple of blokes from in Geelong that I'd never played with before as well, that I got to play with some really good cricketers. So that was great. And then achievements, I would probably have to say it's probably the grand finals with all your mates, I guess. All your individual ones, I guess, are a great honour and whatnot, but it's more that when you play with your mates, the real spark you get out of that. And it's not just sort of a single thing, it's a real team thing. It's not just myself winning something, it's everyone winning something, and as a club and as a town. So probably more in that regard, that's probably my best achievements, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since when you made the grand final against Drysdale going back 5 or 6 years ago, that there's been that common denominator that you've been regularly contending for finals, and you got that core playing group. And I guess there's a lot of guys that are in their 20s, early 30s at the club, and it's just amazing how just kept that core. Hey, I'd like to have a little bit of banter. I have been watching a bit of some of your Instagram videos, whether that's seeing you filming or having a bit of KFC or dressing up as a lifesaver, or heading down to the Anglesea Hotel. And of course, the guy next to you couldn't play on the weekend. He claims to be the Sir Don off the field and on the field because of his batting average. Can you enlighten us on the banter side of the Anglesea Cricket Club and just some of those things that I've mentioned?
I think that's what makes our club actually so good, is all the banter between us boys. Venables thought he was going pretty well so far this season. He had an average of 97 actually at one stage, and we played in Barwon Heads, and he needed 3 runs actually to get to an average of 100 to be better than Sir Don. And it was actually pretty unfortunate. Jacob Nolan batting at the other end, and Venables was backing up, and he smashed one straight back down the ground, and the bowler actually just got a fingertip on it and run him out. So his average just went straight in half, and now I'm not sure he's Sir Don anymore. He's a bit quiet about that now.
But I've also been told that Brett Venables bowls some pretty good darts as well. Like, he comes off a short run, and some of those battles you had against Colindina going back a few years ago, he had a bit of white line fever, didn't he?
He does have a bit of white line fever. It's come out a couple of times this year actually too. So I don't think it'll be the last time either.
I won't mention the guy's name. I won't mention the guy's name, but I think you'll get the hint. He goes to me, when there was a game against a certain team going back a few years, he goes, "I'm not going to shake that guy's hand." And I got a bit of a laugh, but it was all in the spirit of the moment. I know Brett's obviously you can mention some of the things. I mean, how you got to take the hat off to him in a lot of ways, because he's a family man, but also he's taken on the role as president. I mean, there's a couple of things to do there, isn't there? I mean, he's obviously playing a pretty good level of cricket, but he's taken on that extra responsibility as president of the club. So you must appreciate the efforts that he does around the club.
Yeah, definitely. And it's his first season in it. He sort of helped out a little bit last year, taking over from my old man, and he stepped into the role and done a really, really good job. Obviously, it's not an easy task, like you were saying. He's trying to play play cricket as well as organise things for around the club, and there's always things to do after hours that a lot of blokes don't see. So he has done a great job so far this year, which is great.
Brett, are there any additions done that need to be made to the deck? I'm talking about not the platform of the deck itself, but maybe some signage or some sponsorship around the deck. What are you looking from a deck point of view? I mean, what's it like sort of during COVID when you have events on like fundraisers or super draws and all that sort of stuff? Can you host more people potentially, but also be aware of the square meterage around a COVID-safe environment?
Yeah, that's the ideal thing now is that, we've got a deck with, a couple of big sliding doors that open up, and it really enhances the amount of people we can host. So I think that, the rules at the moment are about 1 per 2 square metres. So inside the rooms, we can have about 70. And then obviously outside, you've got quite a large deck now. So it'll be interesting to see how it mingles from outside the deck and inside the rooms. So certainly having that going forward, it gives us a lot more different options on events that we do try and host. So, we'll have some fun ideas that we'll play with going forward on how we can host a few things in the coming years.
As we're talking to you tonight, there has been a bit of rain on the deck, a bit of rain down in Anglesea. So if you're listening and watching this podcast, we're obviously filming from the Anglesea deck. So who knows, we might get an indoor facility, or you might have to alternative ways of training. But it's great that the club has got this deck on board, and thanks to all the volunteers. I know, it's not possible without a lot of the volunteers, because if you're not getting any council funding or any federal funding, you have to rely on the great work of the volunteers within the club. I've been involved in clubs, and that all helps as well. So guys, it's been fantastic to have you on, particularly Dale as our special guest for this podcast on the Stoned Heen View. Obviously, we are coming to you today from your wonderful deck and your club rooms. And, obviously, last year you were crowned winners in the A1, and you're looking to back it up this year, but obviously play off in a grand final, and the grand final's not that far away. So really wanted to appreciate you, Dale, for coming on to the Stoned Heen View podcast. And we really thank you for your time, and hopefully it's a good end to the season for yourself.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, hopefully next couple of weeks goes well, and hopefully we finish right into the finals and go really deep. But thanks a lot for having me tonight.
Not a problem. And Brett Venables, thank you so much for specially co-hosting this program. We had a BPCA podcast earlier in the season, or before the season started, and we had Shane Cuttajar as our co-host interviewing Rob Malcolm. So we thank you for taking on those duties. We know that you're wearing a lot of hats at the moment. I will monitor your performance with your averages as well, with the Sir Don average, see if you can get over 100, and maybe some vision of you playing off a golf tank with a stump with a golf ball.
Yeah, anything to keep improving, mate. Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. We're going to finish off now and just do our little final credits for the day. Obviously, thanks to Brett for being the co-host from the Anglesea Cricket Club. Brett Venables, is the president, and we had Dale Kerr, who's a star bowling all-rounder, but he's also a really good batsman as well. And some of those awards, 3-time Ray Menzies medalist, part of the Victorian Country Cricket League Team of the Year last year, and played in a representative match against the other part of the state, being the West versus the East in Melbourne at Junction Oval. And there's a multiple premiership player at Anglesea. So you can get in contact at any time if you have a guest from sport. You can check out the Stoned Heen View on Facebook, on Instagram. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we're on our launching platform, which is Podbean, and the YouTube channel. And we've also got a Twitter account called @StonedHeen View. You can write us a review at any stage. So it's been a great delight to speak to Dale Kerr as our guest for the Stoned Heen View podcast. It's been episode 44. We'll see you next time on the Stoned Heen View with another exciting guest, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.